have a theory that these kitties are cosmic being enacting a Gnostic play that humanity then will then live out as a collective. Prove me wrong. At one point, as a species, I feel we will jump up into that chair and then look around, beholding, before returning to the basic maintenance of existence. But who are the other kitties and what are they symbolic of? Maybe in this little panorama just now, we have the day and the night. I was filming another video where I started to talk about the tripod books by John Christopher. This trilogy especially was an absolute favorite of my youth, plus the prequel. And those are two other books by John Christopher over on the side there. But I mean, this is one of the sci-fi great trilogies. The BBC turned these first two books here into a series, 2 seasons of a series, and then it got canceled before they could complete the story. Ugh. And this one ends with, "Was it all for naught?" Someone crying that their base is burned. Destroyed by the tripods. The season that adapts this book, very faithful. This one takes more liberties, but it's still quite engaging. And the TV series added some really good stuff, like teaching about worshipping the tripods in schools and so on. Saying things like, "We thank the tripods." I think the prequel added some good stuff. It added people, like how they got brainwashed to love the tripods in the beginning. Yeah, so this is a trilogy. You think when it starts off that it's in the past, but no, it's in the future, and everybody has mesh metal caps on their heads, put on them at age 14, that make it so they can't think in an advanced way past a certain point of complexity. So people live very docilely, and the most advanced technology is like an old watch that some clockmaker knows how to maintain. In the first book, someone runs away and joins the resistance. Look at this great cover. The tripod is piloted by this alien species called the Masters, and they breathe the poisonous air, and the tripods have tentacles. John Christopher said in an interview that he didn't think about H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds to afterwards, and then he was all, "Oh man, that's totally from War of the Worlds, tripods." But I say lucky us that John Christopher, or whatever his real name is, because that's a pseudonym from someone that uses a few different names. I knew a local author like that, Bob Vardaman, that had all these different writing identities for different genres, like as an acquaintance. And I knew people that knew him all. Awesome. Speaking of Gnostic cosmic plays, what's going on with cats? What's happening back there? The day and the night are play fighting. Well, I'm sad to report that my PTSD was totally set off again by the fireworks last night at 2 different locations. First, I was with my kids' dogs, and I came home late, and my place was even worse, and there were people in the parking lot, and I had to park far away. But I think we should all count ourselves lucky that John Christopher forgot about War of the Worlds and the tripods. So here we have Will runs away, joins the resistance. The resistance gets into the city in an ingenious way, winning an Olympics that the Masters put on, where they kind of like compete humans against each other like animals, like including hunting them with tripods. And then this one completes the story in such a complete and interesting and complex and deep way. It's great. I love this trilogy. I inherited my love of them from my older siblings who grew up in the 70s when these were really popular in the popular culture. In fact, Boys Life magazine, the Boy Scouts magazine, had a long-running comic adaptation of these that I don't think has ever been collected, because it's such a nerdy place to be from, you know. But no, that's not true. I think there's an old out-of-print collection of some of them. That's very expensive. But I was growing up with these and was thrilled when this appeared. You know, growing up in the 80s, some like interesting big things came out like in real time back then. It was wild. This was one of them. I remember this in the new book section, the American International School Library. I was like, there's a prequel. I don't think I even knew that word at the time. It's about how the tripods conquered. Everyone complains about this, but I'm like, we're so lucky to have a prequel in that world. This is like a sci-fi world that I always wish would have taken off. Apparently Disney owns the rights. I thought a lot of elements from this one were stolen and used in Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds movie with Tom Cruise, which has just some dumb parts in it, like the aliens being from 3.5 billion years before and planted in the ground. I'm like, what? I don't get it. Here's the plan. We'll wait for a species to evolve, then we'll conquer it. But I thought this prequel was very satisfying. The tripods brainwashed people through a TV show and subliminal messages, and of a sort. But John Christopher also wrote this book with this beautiful cover. I read this once with my son Hagen. Look at that cover. Wow. He needs to display this somehow. If I sound lacking in life, it's because I'm concerned about financial things. I need a miracle. But I mean, 1960s paperbacks are just on another level. This is cool. This is about people that live on the moon, ho-hum, and they go off exploring in some buggies, and they discover signs of something else alive there. Cool premise. Sounds like it'd make a great movie. I really love that movie Moon, directed by Duncan Jones with Sam Rockwell. I know I've read this one a couple times. Good cover too. I wonder who did that. It feels pretty classic to me. I wonder who did that. It feels like Saul Bass, honestly. But I don't know that he did this kind of book. He did film stuff. Feels like Eric Carle a little bit. Did he do book covers? He might have. Anyway, I think these days the tripods are kind of forgotten. Some cult fans remember the show. My kids all remember them because they grew up with me reading those books to them at night. And I've always wanted to track down his book for older readers called The Death of Grass. It's rather hard to find. I was thinking about how back in the day, sometimes you just couldn't find a book. There wasn't a great interlibrary loan system that I knew of. It wasn't widely advertised. And the internet wasn't what it was. Because I was thinking about, as a kid, just like, I could never find the Scarecrow of Oz. I was like, well, you look in some bookstores, and that's it. Library. Maybe a Dover catalog. But, you know, this is a world that I spent a lot of time living in, and I think it could bear some really interesting additional explorations. I think if it were adapted into movies and were successful, that could happen, and it would be a really interesting world to think about. Like, what was the experience of someone who was capped like? I think a story told from a capped person's perspective would be great in the world of the tripods. If I ever do that fan fiction collection that I want to write with every chapter, different fan fiction, I would definitely do one in this world. Like, say what you will about this or that about Star Wars, but like, how cool that someone created a universe that people just kept wanting to play in, you know? That's how I think this would be amazing. And it's really triumphant too. I put this up there as one of the classic YA trilogies, up with The Hunger Games. And I know it was written by my brother, but the Pillage trilogy, that's a fantastic trilogy. Pillage by Obert Sky. Just so good. I would love to see that turn into a series of 3 blockbuster movies.